Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Liberals released their 10th budget, and it's the costly deficit outside of COVID, double what the same previous Liberal government left behind. Canadians are paying more and they're getting less. This budget drives up the cost of living on every Canadian, on food, on homes, and on everything that families buy. For people back home in Newfoundland and Labrador, the cost feels heavier than ever. We face the highest rate of unemployment in the country, the fastest net out-migration rate relative to our population. We have the oldest demographic and some of the highest food prices in Canada. When Ottawa overspends, we feel it. Mr. Speaker, our Premier said yesterday, and I quote, "The federal budget raises far more questions than answers about whether it will benefit Newfoundlanders and Labradorians," and I couldn't agree more. The Prime Minister broke every promise he made just months ago. He promised a $62 billion deficit, but delivered 78 instead. He promised to lower the debt-to-GDP ratio, yet he raised it. He promised to spend less, but is spending $90 billion more. To put that into perspective, Mr. Speaker, that is $5,400 in inflationary spending for every household. He promised more investment, yet his own budget shows it's collapsing quarter after quarter. The budget and this government are especially ignoring the realities faced by rural Canadians. As a member of the Standing Committee of Environment and Sustainable Development, I hear directly from the people being left behind. We heard testimony today regarding the EV mandates from a business owner and employer living in a rural community. And his message could not have been clearer. He warned, and I quote, "If you continue down this road, you will harm and destroy the auto industry and ruin the lives of a whole lot of people in rural towns all across the country. My store will not be profitable enough to survive if these mandates are enforced. A family business put out of business after 45 years by the government will be the headline." Yet, despite these warnings, the government will not commit to removing these mandates. And they do not work for rural Canada. They could have been removed in this budget, but they were not. In regions where winter temperatures plunge, distances are vast, and charging stations are few and far between, keeping these mandates only makes life more expensive. From transportation to groceries to home heating, costs are climbing, and it's everyday Canadians who are paying the price for this out-of-touch government. People are trying to make ends meet. They work, they pay their taxes, and they still come up short because Ottawa keeps spending more but delivering less. Families in Port aux Basques, Stephenville, and Deer Lake are working hard. They're doing everything right, yet they're falling further behind. One senior from Brig Bay told my office that every month the decisions get harder: eat or heat, groceries or the power bill. Greta Gillingham from Trout River told me her survivor's allowance was cut by almost $300 a month, leaving her struggling to pay for the basics while the cost of everything continues to rise. Catherine Alexander from Stephenville Crossing said she now only buys what's on sale and grows her own vegetables to offset grocery costs. She told me she doesn't buy fruit anymore at full price, and she can't go out to eat because she simply just can't afford it. Mr. Speaker, these are not isolated stories. They are a mirror of what's happening right across Canada. Nationally, food bank use has doubled since 2019. That should be shocking to everyone in this House. Recently, a report from my province told this story clearly. Food bank volunteers say families who used to come once a month now come every 2 weeks. And many parents are deliberately skipping meals so that children can eat. The Single Parent Association of Newfoundland and Labrador shared a case where a mother was so hungry she took a cold food box in her car and ate it because it was the only meal that she had that day. Food First NL says 40% of children in Newfoundland and Labrador now live in food-insecure households. That's one of the highest rates in the country. When parents are going hungry so kids can eat, it's not economic progress, Mr. Speaker. It's a government that has lost touch with reality. These are hard-working people who want a government that understands what life costs in Newfoundland and Labrador, a government that knows you can't fight inflation by spending more, a government that realizes that when the cost of fuel rises, everything else rises, and a government that realizes that baked-in hidden food taxes raise the price of food. In our province, many of our goods and services are shipped to us. Shipping costs, fuel surcharges, and inflation pile one on top of the other. And that's why food prices in Newfoundland and Labrador are among the highest in the country. And that is why families are cutting back on essentials. And while families are paying more, this budget makes life even more expensive. Mr. Speaker, in a province already struggling without migration, it makes it harder for young people to stay and build their future at home. We're losing far too many of our young people to the mainland because they can't make it at home. If a paycheck can't cover food, fuel, and rent, families end up leaving the place that they love. Ernest Snooks returned to the province in 2015 from Alberta, and his goal was to build a future in Newfoundland and Labrador. He returned to school, he did everything right to get ahead, but he's barely getting by. The cost of everything keeps going higher and higher. His everyday bills are piling up. He's worried about his health because healthy food is priced out of his budget. Every dollar this government spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians. Statistics Canada confirmed again this month that food inflation is still rising. According to the food professor, Canada is the only G7 country where food inflation has risen for 4 months in a row. Between March and September of 2025, strawberries went up 25%, beef 25%, and coffee 20%. Families are paying more for every staple. Conservatives brought forward a plan to bring food costs down, to end the food packaging tax, to remove the clean fuel regulation that adds 17 cents a litre to gas and diesel, and to stop inflationary deficits. But the Liberals voted it down. Only Conservatives will stop these hidden taxes on food and restore common sense to affordability. Mr. Speaker, Conservatives want an affordable budget for an affordable life. And on behalf of the Canadians the Liberals have priced out of food, homes, and hope, we oppose this costly deficit budget that gambles away Canada's future. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business called this budget a missed opportunity to provide meaningful tax relief. The large Urban Centre Alliance said it relies on backward-looking data that hides the housing crisis. Economist Mike Moffat said he had inadequately prepared himself for how disappointed he would be. Even those who wanted to believe in this government's promises, they're losing faith. Mr. Speaker, wherever Newfoundlanders and Labradorians go, whether it's Alberta, Ontario, or anywhere in between, we always find a way to gather together, to share stories, and to stay connected, because we have a pride of place and a love that never leaves us. They ask for very little, only a fair shot at building a life where they were born, and they deserve a government that recognizes their struggle and respects their effort. They deserve a budget that makes it possible to stay, raise their children, and hope again. When a government spends recklessly and drives up inflation, it's rural Canadians who pay the price the hardest. And when the same government turns a blind eye to the cost of living in places like mine, it risks losing the very communities that built this country. It's not compassion to spend what we don't have and leave the bill to those who can least afford it. It's not fairness when rural families pay more simply for wanting to live where they were born. Mr. Speaker, we call on the Prime Minister to work with us to build a positive, hopeful, and affordable future, one where families in the long-range mountains can look at their grocery bill, their oil delivery, and their tax statement and say, we can breathe easier, we can stay, and we can build in Newfoundland and Labrador. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments. Questions et commentaires. The member for Labrador.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my colleague from Newfoundland and Labrador for her speech. There's that side of the House where I hear a lot of negativity, and this side of the House you hear a lot of positivity. We often hear from the other side of the House about taking money out of people's pockets, but on this side of the House we're about leaving money in people's pockets. So I want to ask my colleague opposite, Pharmacare is still in the budget. Dental care is in the budget. The school food program is still in the budget. Child benefit is still in the budget. There's a tax cut for 22 million Canadians that's still in the budget. I want to ask the member opposite if she supports those programs because it leaves money in the pockets of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. Thank you, Mr.
The member for Long Range Mountains.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm happy to address my honourable colleague's question, and I'm going to give a real-life example about this because it's with respect to the government's idea about investment and programs. Firstly, the school food program. I've reached out to all of the schools in my riding. Very few know anything about it. Very few are getting any benefit from it. I will also point to an investment that they made in my home community, a milk processing plant. They announced it in 2021. They announced it again in 2022. It never, ever came to fruition. So I'd love to have all this hope for the future, but their solutions don't work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions et commentaires, honorable.
Questions and comments. The honourable member for Gaspésie, les îles de la Madeleine. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague for her speech. I'd like to hear what she has to say about something that we share an interest in, and that is the fisheries. In my case, it's Quebec, the ground fish, and in her case, it would be in Newfoundland. So there are a lot of things in this budget that are missing about housing, seniors, healthcare. But when it comes to fishery, also, what we're expecting is a fund to allow for innovation and science and so on. Can my colleague explain why the funding for fisheries in Quebec and Atlantic Canada should be a priority? The honourable member for Long Range Mountains.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I think he touches on something that a lot of people in rural communities and especially coastal communities feel like they've been left behind by the Liberal government. And he's absolutely correct. The fishery is super important to our riding, which is why I brought forward a petition on the small craft harbours as well, because I believe in investing in our fishery in Newfoundland and Labrador. And also, I'm sure it's super important in Quebec. So thank you for that question.
Questions and comments, questions and commentaires. The honourable member for Souris, Moose Mountain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We just heard an excellent speech given by my colleague from Newfoundland. And I think something that gets lost a lot in this House when we're talking about the budget is the human content of this, the human impact. She gave some very good examples of real-life consequences of this Liberal mismanagement and waste and overspending. I'm just wondering if she could maybe comment further on the actual human impact that this budget is going to cause.
Honourable member for Long Range Mountains.
Well, thank you for that very important question, and you are absolutely 100% right. I knocked on thousands of doors while campaigning. I speak to constituents all the time. I speak about this all the time because it is so relevant and so true. When I have seniors reaching out to me and saying they're spending the day at Tim Hortons because they can't afford to feed their home and they should be living the rest of their life in dignity, like, it hurts me and it makes me passionate about this stuff. So there is a real life consequence. And it needs to be changed. The cost of things in Newfoundland and Labrador needs to come down. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments. I have a point of order for the member for Waterloo.
Mr. Speaker, I did not want to ruin the member's clip because I know it's really important to the Conservative Party of Canada, and I think it's important for constituents to hear their position, but the member should be speaking through the chair. The Speaker, thank you.
Thank the member for Waterloo. That is indeed the rule when using the you or when using in French le vous or tu. It's through the chair, not at the chair, or can't speak directly to members. With that being said, questions and comments. The Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister, a short question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the member opposite for her remarks today. It's clear she has a passion for driving rural Canada, even if we may disagree on certain points in this place. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, Mr. Speaker, the member from Central Newfoundland called the National Food School Program garbage. I was in Newfoundland and Labrador when then Prime Minister Trudeau, alongside Premier Fury, actually launched the first program of the National School Food Program in the members' riding in Grossmorn Elementary. This is a program that is contributing to students across the country. Does she agree with her member from Central Newfoundland that it's garbage?
To interrupt the member, to give a chance for the member Long Range Mountain to respond in 30 seconds or less.
Thank you for that question. I am passionate about my place. And what I hear is that people want to be able to feed their kids themselves all the time, which is why they want the cost of groceries to go down. So thank you for that question.
Good.